We've got a great session today. Your presenter, Paula VanDeventer, will give you a roadmap look ahead. So you are in for some treats about things that are to come with PCC developments and software.
All right, thanks, Jan, for getting us started. And welcome everybody to the roadmap look ahead. And we will have Jan serving as our host and Owen is moderating today. So if you put your questions in that chat channel, Owen's going to be helping with that. And towards the end of the session, Owen is going to share with everybody a link that you can use to put in remember the top 3 wishes that we typically hand out during the UC roadmap session. He's going to be providing a link that gives you the equivalent of that capability. And we would love to get your feedback. So keep an eye out for that. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I'm hoping the internet gods will be kind. You may notice that I am using a slightly different background from some of the UC presenters. My laptop felt that using a background was not going to be a good idea. So we are going to just do our best, along with everything else that we do our best with, like haircuts and so forth. So I have about 40 slides, which as usual is about twice what Chip recommends. And we're going to be moving pretty quickly. And so we'll get rolling. I have a fair number of graphics in here, just small images that kind of tell a little bit of the story. And I hope folks attended the earlier session today with Scott Plouffe. He shared everything that we have delivered almost up through this Sunday to you over the past 12 months. And you get a sense of, well, you guys know what your last 2 months have been like, 2.5 months. And so you got a sense of what's going on here. We have a lot coming your way. So I love this little graphic because it has a roadmap that has some little S-curves in it. And yes, we have all hit some pretty big S-curves. The more I looked at this, I thought, oh, it's so cheerful. Off in the distance, there is this wonderful set of mountains and you can, head to the horizon. I looked at it a little bit longer and I said, oh, look at that. It says mom in the distance. And then the more I looked at it, it's sort of screaming, mom, help. So I just love that graphics tell you lots of different things. So we are, instead of talking about what's been delivered or very shortly to be delivered, we are going to be talking about planning for the future, which has been a rather interesting activity of late for all of us. So again, this is some of the information that Jan has already shared. I'm going to jump on past that and get us started. So the agenda for the session today is we will touch on 3 key roadmap planning concepts that will just help us with some of the subsequent discussion. We will talk about the release schedule itself, the planned schedule, and you notice the big underline under planned, and you understand why. And I know you all get this, but we will reiterate that these are plans, they are subject to change. And then we will take a look at some coming attractions. And since I have 40 slides, that gives you a sense of what's coming your way. So I want to make sure that we get a chance to run through this. I will probably go fairly quickly. If you have questions, if you have questions tomorrow, whatever, just reach out and let us know. We are more than happy to share with you what we're working on, and not just share with you, but you folks share with us so generously of your time in preparing these features, and I thank you. And it's really weird doing this, these Zoom sessions, we're all in these all the time. We have these Brady Bunch grids and we can see each other. Right now I can't see any of you, but I have some of your pictures printed out around me so that I know who I'm talking to. So if you're one of my usual characters, I see you. Okay, so these are, this is what we're heading into, and we're gonna move on to our session goals. So my intent here is that you're going to have a good understanding of what we're working on right now, which we have all been reminding ourselves of what we worked on and had to shift from in March. You'll be able to plan for some of these changes that are upcoming, and we will have a shared understanding of the context of the current plans. And again, in this case, context, what I'm really saying here is that the concepts. So we'll just use that as a move into talking about these concepts. So what is a roadmap? Lots of you know that, and maybe this is new to some of you folks. We'll take a look at what roadmaps represent. We talk about being agile, that we follow agile methodologies and principles. And we'll talk about how that applies, that applies pretty well in the current environment. We're also going to talk about something that I don't think we've discussed much before, which is a term called MVP, minimum viable product. Probably not something a marketing person came up with because it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's really, really important. And we've been using this and we will continue to use this. We've actually used it for as long as I've been around at PCC. We just didn't use this term, but you'll see that we'll be using this term more going forward. So let's move on to what a roadmap is. A roadmap is a plan. It's a plan that is subject to change. Typically with the software, we're looking at about 6 months. And what we generally say is the closer in that roadmap is, like, I can tell you right now, I'm feeling, again, people say, don't jinx it. I'm feeling pretty good about the release that's coming to you folks this Sunday. That's feeling pretty good. It's in its second release or second week of beta right now. And it's chock full of such good things. And we're really looking forward to getting that out to you. So I'm feeling good about that. We've got this next release and that's a little further out. Hopefully that all goes well. But what I don't know is what crazy things are going to happen between now and then. So we were 2 to 3 weeks away from ending our code development for the 8.13 release when everybody switched gears. That was pretty close to really moving into the test phase. So normally we're looking at about 6 months. And obviously these things are occasionally disrupted. Anything can happen. And so let's talk about what agility means. And I found some wonderful images of my old friend Gumby. There are a couple where he's sort of twisted around in a couple of kinks in the middle, but he's still smiling like that. And so Gumby's flexible, and agility means that we welcome change, whether that means that we have to make adjustments while we're in beta testing. We're kind of, late into the beta cycle. We get some good information. We want to make some changes. We welcome change. We try to remain nimble. We all do. You folks do that incredibly well. And we want to make sure that we're collaborating with you and communicating to you what we're working on and getting your input on what we're working on. We're also always seeking continuous improvement. Again, no different from your own practices, because we find better ways to work all the time. And we want to make sure that we keep an eye out for those things, because sometimes they're unexpected. The other piece here is that agility means delivering working solutions to you quickly. So what you'll find is that there are some things that we are delivering to you between releases. That is something that, depending on some of the technical specifications of the feature, we have some options to deliver things ahead of a release. So you will see some of these changes that will come along between releases, and that makes communication a little bit more challenging. But again, we're trying to get things to you as quickly as we can. And this is, again, this is all about agility, being agile, and this is what we do when plans change, and we anticipate that they will. So let's move on to this term, the minimum viable product. Definition here is that it is a version of the product with just enough features that will satisfy early customers and provide feedback for future development. So some examples of minimum viable product development at PCC. Broadcast messaging is one of our flagship elements here, kind of the poster child for MVP. Charge posting is in the EHR is another example. We'll talk about each of these, and then the form solution, the upcoming form solution. So, but just like if you think about the appointment book, the patient portal, really any significant new feature in PCC EHR, those things have come out and been incrementally improved. And when it has the features you need, it's ready. So we try to make things available to you early. There are some things where we have to make a big switch. We try not to do that, but like when we moved from Dr. First to the new ERX solution, that was a big switch. Those are a little harder to manage and they're a little rougher on you. So we try to build things incrementally. So let's take a look at these examples. We're going to take a look first at broadcast messaging. So this is a really nice little graphic that gives you the concept around what MVP is all about. And that little guy can go away maybe. Oh, he's gonna, okay. I'll keep my cursor to myself. So you are, we get an idea, we figure out what we want to build, we build something, we figure out how well that's working, which is feedback from you folks, and then we learn from that and we build some more. So we iterate. The broadcast messaging feature from start to pilot was 8 days. That was the fastest I know of that we have ever gotten a brand new feature that was pretty significant in functionality out the door. And really a million thanks to you folks. Dr. Lavanya, our first pilot deployment for that feature, took this thing so early, and others, Dr. Peters, have just pounded on this thing and sent us feedback and said, here's a weird thing that's happening. And so people are riding along and saying, okay, I think this, there's something not quite right here, and we're adjusting and we're extending and improving and enhancing this. In the April release, you all got this feature, but it was still not as obviously as full featured as we would like. And you're getting some really good reporting capability around that in the release this coming Sunday. That would, ideally we would have given it to you when we put it out there, but we weren't going to hold this feature up because you folks have already, as of today, we've passed the 850,000 message number for broadcast messages, which by the way is interestingly 2-to-1 text to email. So the text messaging has been really, really popular. And we're going to keep, as Scott mentioned earlier today, we're going to keep cranking on that feature. So that extensions are coming there. So that's a really good example of the minimum viable product. The next one I wanted to chat about briefly here is charge posting. Now, if you look at this, not like this in the upper section of the graphic, but like this, what you can see is that if we're setting out to give people some locomotion, giving them one wheel is not going to make anybody happy. So rather than continually building out functionality and then finally saying, ta-da, and giving you something that does everything for you, instead we're saying, okay, let's get started with something, we'll augment it. And somewhere along that line, hopefully everybody is happy with what's there. So with charge posting, the basic workflow for that came out in January of this year. Not enough for really most folks to be able to make use of it. And then in the middle of March, we deployed posting encounters. I'm surprised anybody even noticed that was there, because that was right as everything was going south and everybody's attention was focused elsewhere. So if you haven't paid attention to it, posting encounters in the EHR is now available. And then in August, we will be providing the ability to post non-visit charges. And we're going to look at all of that in more detail. This is really here as an example of what a minimum viable product is all about. And then later this year, we'll have some additional functionality, really kind of wrap up the charge posting. But in this case, getting that basic workflow out the door didn't really give you very much you could use. But by the time the posting encounters came out, you had something that was actually functional. Another example upcoming is the form solution. Another little graphic here that I like that shares with you, well, it's really nice that you built me a house, but I had to wait such a long time that I wasn't very happy along the way. Instead, we'll give you some sort of protection and some sort of accommodation, and that accommodation is just going to grow and grow. So I'm sure you get the idea. With the form solution, we are going to have a lab and radiology requisition with some good friends, you'll see in a minute, coming in August, mid-August this year. And then beyond that, if you're not familiar with this acronym, what you see is what you get, a WYSIWYG editor, and the ability to create simple forms. So that'll be coming towards the end of this year and more to come after that. It's going to be a progression. So when we talk to you about MVP, minimum viable product, you'll understand we're on a path. We're not delivering something incomplete and expecting that you're going to say, oh, that's everything I could have ever wished for. We definitely have people saying, well, what about? And we want to hear those. So the planned release schedule for this year is, again, this Sunday, you're going to get that June release, and Scott shared a lot of that with you. We had a couple of general deployment web labs last week as part of the UC program. Brian shared those. So hopefully you've seen that, you know what's coming. There's definitely some migration information. We've got links out about the release documentation, and Douglas's team is hard at work building out some great videos for you with those features. So those will be out available to you very shortly. And that is coming to you this Sunday. The 8.13 release, honestly, there were things we started looking at, we started talking about, and I had to go back and just remind myself what was in that feature, because we started working on this a while ago. So we are targeting mid-August for the 8.13 release. And then, as you hopefully heard from Morgan last Thursday in the ERX session, the big 9.0 release, which is PCC ERX with so much functionality, it's its own release all by itself. That is coming in October. That's the goal. And then we would expect to have another release coming shortly after that. I'll call it November, December. We'll see. We always run into the holiday troubles when it comes to the latter part of the year, but scheduling around all that. But we will be looking to get another release out to you shortly after that ERX release. So and she's there to remind us that everything is subject to change. So I've told you that at least 3 times now. This is our plan, lots of stars around that. And that is our goal here, and we will respond. And if something crazy happens between now and then, we'll adjust, and so will you. So I did want to give you one reminder about the Windows 7 end of life. So support for that ended in January, and middle of January. There are no security updates provided for Windows 7. You all know that despite the pandemic, the bad guys have not gone into quarantine, and there are security risks running Windows 7. I took a look, and we still have a lot of practices that are running the EHR, that are opening charts on Windows 7. So if that happens if you're in that group of 34 practices, please revisit that. Has nothing to do with what's coming out this Sunday. You do not need to worry about the release. The June COVID release coming this Sunday is not touching any of this. You're fine. Stay on Windows 7. What we would like you to do is really, as best you can, start making progress to shift off of those Windows 7 laptops and so forth. And our goal is to deliver to you in 8.13 a release that's going to require that you have moved on beyond Windows 7, that you are on a supported Windows OS, okay? We will watch it. We're not going to pull the rug out from under anybody. And depending on what happens with the pandemic, we're going to adjust. So just little service announcement here. We would really appreciate your help moving off of Windows 7. All right, coming attractions. Okay, so we're going to go through this by theme. I've got 7 primary themes here. So OnePCC is the term, the phrase that we use to represent really pulling the practice management solution into the EHR, so you don't have people jumping back and forth between partner, the EHR, and so forth. So we'll be talking about the practice management functionality coming into the EHR, what's going on, caring for patients, leveraging pediatric data, reporting, just all of the access to the data that you keep putting into the EHR. How can you use that? How do we get that data back out and apply that? PCC ERX, I'm going to touch briefly on a couple of things there, but Morgan really covered all of that last Thursday, and that session is recorded, so definitely touch base on that if you did not get a chance to listen to that yet. If you miss Morgan, you will enjoy attending her session. So clinical interoperability, we'll talk about that, as well as promoting interoperability, which is the ARA name. And then so we've got a few workflow improvements and some other good stuff coming. So we'll start with OnePCC. So coming in the August release, and again, I'm not talking about anything for this Sunday, okay? I'm gonna really talk from 8.13 forward. Scott covered everything up through this Sunday's June release. So coming in 8.13, the ability to post non-visit, hospital and administrative charges, time of service discounts, charge posting for sibling visits. Some of these things were things that we've heard feedback on from you from the earlier charge posting functionality. And we will continue to migrate practice management tables into the EHR database. And that gives us a lot of opportunity going forward to work with those tables. So we're going to be continuing to work on that for a while. There's a lot of partner data. In the later release, so you'll see I went from 8/13 August to 9/1. I'm jumping over 9/0, which is the ERX, the PCC ERX release. So for OnePCC in 9/1, our focus here is to wrap up the posting charges functionality. And we will have the workers' comp included in there, along with a collection of other things like the ability to apply credit balances to today's visit, the ability to backdate payments, eliminating duplicate diagnoses on the electronic encounter form, preserving that linking of the diagnosis to procedure that you've got set up in order config. So we're aware of all of these things. We got lots of enhancement requests coming out of that March release for the ability to post encounter charges. And so we're going to be working all of those in. Our goal is that by the end of this year, by that 9/1 release, you will have a pretty complete charge posting functionality in the EHR. And then what comes next for OnePCC? We'll be turning our sites to payment posting, referrals, managing charges and payments in the EHR, billing, and continued migration of practice management tables. When we start really getting into this realm of billing and managing charges and payments, if you think back to the MVP concept, what we've been doing to a large extent is really trying to move the functionality. There's a very strong desire to enhance the functionality. And you may see us starting to move more in that direction as we get into this area of the payments and managing payments, charges, and billing. That is something that we've sort of viewed as a phase 2 for all of this. And so you can expect to see some of that coming as we get into 2021. All right. We're going to move on to the next theme, caring for patients. In the August release, we have a pretty significant enhancement in the appointment book that is called schedule sibling appointments, but essentially it's a way that you can schedule multiple appointments at once. And there's a new feature built in the area where you're doing the scheduling, where you can choose from the calendar that will actually let you pop open siblings and pull in other patients if you so need to. So that's a pretty big enhancement, pretty big change to the appointment book. And we're really looking forward to feedback and testing help and all that with that user story. So you can keep an eye out for that one. And that really, really wraps up the major capabilities of the appointment book that we've identified as needed. So when we get to the end of this session today and you get that link to say, what else do you need? If there's burning wishes around the appointment book, let us know. But this is the big thing coming with the appointment book. In pocketPCC, starting in August, you will be able to sign your visits. So if you wrap everything up, get your day done, charting's done, but you still got to go through all that stuff and review and sign it, you can do that from pocketPCC. Take that home with you. Not that you want to, but it'll give you some flexibility. Also coming in the August release is the Chattis Phase 1 pilot. Now, I've listed this here. It's a little bit of a, I listed this here for timing purposes. The functionality for the Phase 1 Chattis pilot is actually coming in this June release this Sunday. But it is a pilot. We are going to start early. And what I expect is that this is going to roll out over a period of time. But certainly by the August timeframe, if you're interested in getting on board with Chattis, with our Phase 1 solution, you should be able to do that by the time we're into this summer. So let's talk for a little bit about what does Phase 1 Chattis pilot mean versus Phase 2. So in the plan for Chattis in the second half of the year, again, after that ERX release that'll be out in October, if you compare these two, the Phase 1 and Phase 2, in Phase 1, the scheduling an appointment will actually trigger the questionnaire to be sent out to your patients, to their respondents. The questionnaire, that they will be notified by Chattis. So that notification to the respondent will come through Chattis. They will, the respondents will access those questionnaires via the Chattis portal. And for those of you that are already using Chattis, you will continue to get your results by getting them through the Chattis portal. So that is phase one. But if you compare that to what's coming by the end of this year with phase two, the notification, this is going to be much more integrated. So the notification will actually be sent out through your server, from your PCC server. The respondents will access those questionnaires through the portal, the patient portal. And those results will, thank goodness, come back to you directly in the EHR. We know that that is going to be a big time saver. That is a lot of workflow involved in pulling those results back. So again, we're going to get out the MVP. You'll be able to send this stuff out through the EHR. It will be automated when that appointment gets scheduled. And then in the later part of the year, you'll get the second half of that, and that will be something to look forward to. Let's see, what comes next caring for patients? So the question is, what do you need? We have in this June release, this coming Sunday, we have the chat feature, and we've already heard back. One sort of common wish is the ability to have group chat. Right now it's person to person, MVP. So person to person chat within the office. You can quickly say to somebody, can you bring something to this room? Or somebody can let you know so-and-so's in that telemedicine waiting room. So you have a way to communicate with one another. We would love to hear back from you. What else would you like? We are also discussing work around the replacement of Notify, the Notify solution that's currently based out of the practice management system, and the wish to be able to send appointment reminders. We have some onboard capability now to do that. We've also been looking at some third-party vendors that have some nice tools. So that's something that we're discussing. We would love your feedback on what you would like to see there. Again, at the end of this session, when that roadmap, I'll call it a survey. It's a place where you can mark your top 3 wishes in each area. When you get that link from Owen, please fill in and share with us what you would love to see next coming for caring for patients. What do you need, especially given the current situation? Leveraging pediatric data is our next theme, and that is a super theme. It has 4 elements, 4 themes, sub-themes within it. So the form solution, we're going to chat about. We have the report library, which we have been continually adding to. There's more and more coming. The dashboard, of course, and broadcast messaging, and the newest feature. So we'll talk about each of those. All right, so in 8.13 in the August release in forms, we have I got to move my little thing out of the way so I can see my notes here to share this all with you. So we have a lab and radiology requisition forms coming, plural. We have support for encounter-specific vitals on forms, the ability to include multiple blood pressure measurements per visit. We have provider signature variables available for forms. And we did list this as one of our examples for minimum viable product. You will be able to include on these order names, order notes, vendor codes, specimen collection information for labs, facility name, addresses for labs, provider name, NPI, license number, the ICD-10 diagnoses, user controllable, which ones you want to include, stat fasting, contact information, facility smarts. It's going to be able to tell the difference between an in-house lab and an outside facility, some starter forms, and it doesn't feel very minimum. So some really good stuff coming, and you can look forward to learning all about those, and hopefully we'll have some folks that are interested in helping to beta test that. So that is forms for the 8.13 release. In the report library in the 8.13 release, we have the ability to schedule a report that's going to run every Monday, once a month, whatever you need on a recurring basis. You can schedule reports, set them up, and schedule them to run. So that will be a nice new capability here. We have some new reports we're working on. We're expecting to deliver our first report around provider utilization and productivity. And I know that's something that a lot of people have been interested in for a while now. So hopefully that will be a good place to get started, and you can let us know what further information you want. In addition, in the patient list data source, you will be able to see for a given patient, when was their first appointment? So if you're interested in seeing the results of your activity to attract new patients to your office, this report will now have that ability to actually spit out on the report what was the date of their first appointment. So that will be a new capability, a new interesting thing to use. Also, patient medications. That has been a request from a lot of you that are tracking patients that have a particular condition and that are also on a particular medication. So that combination will be available to you starting in the 813 release. So that's another good thing to look forward to. In the dashboard, I had to, again, look back at these, and I'd forgotten all about some of these. We have provider-specific breakdowns for the influenza vaccines. So you'll be able to look at that as you can some of the other measures in the dashboard by provider. We have updated influenza vaccine CPT codes in there. And actually, this last one, although it's technically part of our 813 August release, we're expecting this to roll out to you in probably early June. The team is very hard at work on this additional COVID-19 dashboard reporting, and it is payer-specific information as well as benchmarks. So you can see for your telemedicine visits, how well are you being reimbursed by your payers? And how well are you being reimbursed compared to other PCC practices? So that's going to be really fascinating, valuable data that you'll be able to hopefully use to encourage some people to pay attention to how they're supposed to be paying you for telemedicine appointments. So that I'm going to say early June. That is coming out very soon. It'll feel more like it's part of your June release. In the broadcast messaging area, one of the things we're working on is called CNAM, caller ID name. And that is so that when you are texting a patient, instead of this not necessarily recognizable phone number coming up, it would actually list your practice name instead of the phone number. We're working on that right now. It will, at a minimum, it will reduce the number of characters that you have to use out of your 160 for your text messages, where you say, this is the so-and-so practice. That would actually be there as part of the message, essentially replacing where the phone number comes in. So we're hoping to get that in place and get that rolled out. Enhancements to recall support, and we are adding, so we've heard from some of you who are really beating up the road there with broadcast messaging. You're doing a fantastic job of recall, and we can see it when we look at your dashboard measures in terms of your visit volume. The overdue for immunizations, we do not currently have that information available in that patient list data source, that big parent report that has all of the information that's available to you for triggering broadcast messaging. So we will be adding the overdue for immunizations to that patient list data source. We are going to continue as part of the MVP process to learn, revise, recognize the responses from carriers. So we send out a text message, seems rather straightforward, but AT&T responds to things one way, Sprint does something else. Everybody's got their own set of responses. And so we're having to continually revise and train the broadcast messaging system to understand and recognize when something is accepted or not accepted. So you can expect to see that just continue to iterate there. I just want to mention that the recall support overdue for IMS, if Kristen is watching and she says, what? Is that really an 813? That is an enhancement to a report, and that is something we expect we'd be able to put out again between releases. So we're watching for some of these things that we can wiggle out there early. Let's see. If we go beyond to the end of the year, so the 9.1 release and beyond for leveraging pediatric data, from the forms perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at that WYSIWYG editor. and the ability to create forms, simple forms, a forms library, and that will just grow, just like our other features. In the report library, we are going to continue. Right now, the focus is on provider utilization and patient flow reports, so you can get some sense of how long the patient was waiting, waiting for the provider, waiting for the nurse, whatever the state is that you want to measure. That will help with some of your PCMH reporting and probably some of your other measures that you have to send in, that you have to report on. Dashboard, more COVID, for as long as it takes to get you the tools that you need to keep things rolling in your practice, to make sure that your clinical, your practice management is rolling. The dashboard will continue to be enhanced. And luckily, most of those can be delivered outside of the release cycle. So again, you're going to see more and more of that happening. Broadcast messaging, control over the blacklist. So today, if a patient is to reply stop to a text message that unsubscribes them, they can then turn around and say unstop, and they will be resubscribed. That's nice. We don't have that same capability with the unsubscribe emails, because those unsubscribed messages don't actually come back to us in that form. So we need to give you, you're getting much better reporting in the June release around understanding who's on your blacklist, how to find them between your patients and their the portal users and so forth that are connected to those patients, the accounts. But also you'll be able to now take some action and say, okay, I need to get this person off the blacklist or something. So somebody might call you and say, I unsubscribed because I didn't realize who this was from, or whatever. And so you'll actually have some control yourself to be able to put them back on, take them off the blacklist, and continue including them in your broadcast messages. If there are additional selection criteria that you need for broadcast messaging to get to the patients that you want to reach, please let us know. So again, please plan to include some notes on that. All right, ERX. So I like to tease Morgan because she's one of my favorite people. She said the 9.0 release is a whopper of a release. And so immediately, of course, I had to think of the whoppers. So for ERX, the 8.13 release coming in August, there is a really nice feature some of you folks have been begging for and demanding for a very long time. You want to be able to mark those ERX medications and ERX allergies as reviewed as part of your chart. You want that to be part of that record that shows exactly this is what was here in this component at the time that I saw this patient. So you're going to have that in August, and that should be a nice improvement for you. 9.0, we're going to look at that here in a minute a little bit further. That is this monster release. In the 9.1 release, I'm just going to set some stages here, some expectations. We expect to be doing some infrastructure work for PCC ERX for a little while, and we are going to be working on your wishes as well. But we definitely have some work to do to make sure that we can implement things the way we want. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Okay, so the Whopper release, Morgan, she presented on Thursday. And again, if you haven't seen that session, I encourage you to do so. Very, very minimal highlights here. I'm just showing you one screen for her entire session. So you are going to get some new message types, you'll be able to do the RX cancel. So you can actually cancel electronically that prescription. So you create and send it, and patient says, actually not that pharmacy, this other one. You're like, oh, so now you're actually gonna be able to do that electronically. RX change, that's when the pharmacy says to you, hey, what would you think about us filling this prescription this way instead? Could we use this medicine? We have this on the shelf, we don't have that. And so you have a conversation, but it's electronic. It's on your RX task queue. RX Fill gives you visibility into whether your patients are filling their prescriptions and when they're filling those prescriptions. So that's it's available information. It's not in your face. It's not anything you have to respond to, but it's there for you. It's visibility into what's happening. There's a new script standard coming, and that is, among other things, the primary, probably an immediate change for you is that limited patient prescription information, the details, is currently quite limited. It's 140 characters or thereabouts. That's now going to be 1,000 characters. So where you suddenly see all the letters turning red in your prescription information, you'll be up to 1,000 characters, and hopefully you won't ever see the red. Delighters. Managed to get a lot of delighters. The team's been just chugging to town on this stuff. So apply ADHD med, 3-month supply, one go, one prescription. It turns into 3. It's all magic. It's really slick. Easy access and one-click add to favorites. Definitely, I would say not everything, certainly not everything you want for favorites, but some of the real big wishes are going to be satisfied with this release. Sending prescriptions faster, asynchronously, if you like that word. You click send and you're done, and you don't have to sit and wait for it to close. So that'll be nice. Everybody likes things to happen faster. The ability, again, another example, sign and send all renewals at once. So if you've slogged your way down through a whole bunch of renewals, now you're going to be able to actually say, pick them all, and yay verily. So lots more. Please take a look at Morgan's presentation. Coming on the heels, again, so that release 9.0 is coming in October. 9.1 will be sometime thereafter, November, December, as we can wiggle around the holidays. Beginning with 9.1, the ERX functionality, we will deploy that as part of our normal PCC release. So we won't have these big monster, hey, it's another big PCC ERX change release. We're going to, in fact, just deliver stuff incrementally, just like we do with everything else. Some of the enhancements that you want are going to require some infrastructure and technology updates. And I don't want to discourage people, but I know one of the biggest wishes is for e-prescribing on pocketPCC. Right now, today, if we were to implement that with our current situation, it would be, I will say, suboptimal. We are still a couple of different databases talking to each other through some pipes. And what we really want to do is have one seamless integration so that all of our tools, pocketPCC, patient portal, ERX, everything is all looking at everything in one database. It's all seamlessly integrated. So this little graphic down here shows you what our e-prescribing team is busy doing right now. They are getting everything ready for you for 9.0, and they are analyzing all those little wheels and how those gears need to fit together. So some of that infrastructure is truly needed in order for us to get the other features that you want. But again, tell us what you need and what you want on that survey. And by the way, Morgan provided another survey specifically for ERX features, top wishes. So take a look at that again if you have not seen Morgan's session. All right, I need to get picking up the pace here. Clinical interoperability. So the 8.13 release, the clinical document exchange query initiator. So we had last year the query responder role rolled out in pilot in the late summer, and that is preparing for general rollout. The pilot for clinical document exchange query initiator, you're the one requesting the documents. That will start in late July as part of the 8.13 release. So what we just recently added a session to the UC schedule for this summer on June 12th, next Friday, on the query responder. That session will help you understand the benefits of getting started with the query responder. There's a lot that you can do now, as you get enrolled and registered for the query responder, that will set you up so that it's going to be much more straightforward for you to go ahead and move on to the query initiator when that pilot is complete. We do have expectations that rolling out in this pilot, we're going to be doing some adjustments. We're going to have to deal with some pretty typical, vendor endpoint specific tweaking and tuning, the you say tomato, I say tomato deal. And so the team will work through that, and just like we do with all the eLab vendors. And when that pilot is in good shape, we'll be announcing that the Query Initiator is ready to roll out. And if you've done your homework and you've got Query Responder ready to roll, you're going to be in really great shape to make that happen. So you've got some paperwork, some opt-in, opt-out policy considerations. So please consider attending that session. I think Dan Gillette and Sasha will be there. I think that's right. And they'll be presenting that. And just as a little reminder, the clinical document exchange solution, we have delivered this Query Responder piece, and what's coming is the organization actually seeking. So you'll be able to be on the seeking side of that picture. So that is coming your way. So keep an eye out for that. There will be an announcement coming fairly soon about the ability to get registered and enrolled in the Query Responder. Clinical interoperability. So the 9.1 release, our plan is to be delivering bidirectional immunization registry support. So late this year, that's the target for bidirectional IMS registry support. In addition, we are looking at some enhancements to immunization forecasting. There are a couple of things here. So the group that the vendor that provides us, STC, provides us with the immunization forecasting functionality that we deliver to you today through the EHR. They are upgrading their functionality and they're delivering that through a new interface. Part of what's coming there, according to STC, is support for a COVID vaccine as early as this fall, according to STC per the CDC. So we're obviously all hoping for that. But in addition, they've got better support for things like contraindications, evidence of immunity to factor into the forecasting so that you're not getting the warnings that the patient is behind or overdue or missing something that you know that they should not get. So that's one thing that we're looking at. But in addition to that, we're also researching alternatives to the service. And for those of you that have ever clicked and waited and waited and waited for 12, 15 seconds to see that forecasting service come back and with an answer, we've not been very happy about that. And our own Special Romney does so much testing on their releases. And we would really like to look into alternatives and see if we can't find something that would work better for us. So we're going to be looking into that. And then what comes next? So we have been for a long time very interested in going in the direction of the FHIR API. So we actually have done some prototyping. The promise of this functionality is that your patients will have a secure way to access their own health information. They'll be able to do that using an app of their choice. And we will have certified APIs that connect clinicians, hospitals, and health systems. So it's a way to provide access to health information in a secure way that meets the Cures Act. So that is something that our interoperability team is really anxious to begin working on, but we got a lot of good stuff to get to you first. So we'll be coming back to talk more about that. Promoting interoperability. In the October 9.0 release, the ERX release, you're going to get these, again, these ARCs cancel, ARCs change, and ARCs fill are all part of the requirements for promoting interoperability. So that's one of the reasons these new message types are coming to you. They are also going to be very valuable to you. There's a lot more in the ERX realm in promoting interoperability, but it's more around pharmacy. So these are the things that are really going to be relevant to you. So that is part of the functionality rolling out that is promoting interoperability. In the 9.1 release, I know a lot of you have provided input to us as we've been researching gender identity, sexual orientation, and that is that solution will be coming to you in the end of this year. Also tracking NDC codes per vaccine batch, bidirectional immunization registry support, and updates and extensions to the CCDA, if you're familiar with that. So I think I'm getting close. Yes. Workflow improvements and other good stuff in the August release. you'll have the ability to search on your EHR task queues. So if you've ever opened up one of your task queues and it's not as manicured clean as you would like, and there's something you're looking for on there, you know exactly the name or the term you're looking for, and you're scrolling down, this gives you the ability to actually search on those task queues, and that's going to be a nice time saver. The remote printing through Secure Connect. We have a couple of practices piloting that right now. That's going really well. And that is obviously very helpful as people are working from a lot of different places. So that's a feature that's in process. We also have some supportability improvements included in the August release. So I don't know if tag split and immune mean anything to you, but this is going to help our support team to help you. So takeaways, agility. Agility is perfect for planning during turbulent times, and that is certainly where we've been. We have a lot of functionality coming your way. We would love to hear from you, what you need. We want to make sure we're working on the right features for you as the situation continues to evolve. So let us know today. Please fill out this questionnaire. Give us your top 3 wishes for each of those product areas. Add your own notes in the bottom. There's a spot for that. But if a month from now, some other crazy thing happens and there's something else you need, please let us know. Just reach out. That's what we're here for. We have some related courses, and I would love for you folks to make sure that you attend that clinical document exchange session that is coming up on June 12th. We had already the general deployment web labs for the June COVID release. So those are recorded, as well as the What's New roadmap from earlier today and the What's Next with PCC ERX. And so those ones are all recorded. So please take advantage of those. So now we've got a few minutes and we will see if we have any questions in the chat, and please post those there. And another little MVP screen. And I would not be complete if I didn't say what John always says. Thank you. Now go wash your hands.
He does always say that. Thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you.
Gosh, that you could get through that in an hour it seems superhuman to me. That is so much content. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to our teams.
Indeed. A huge group effort. We do have one specific question and a bit of feedback. And they're both as relates to Chattis. Okay. The question is, when phase 2 Chattis is available, will there be special PCC contracts and pricing with that?
If you have a contract with Chattis today, even for phase 1, if you have a contract with Chattis today, you will be in the first group available to take advantage of the pilot. We're going to get those folks migrated over. So you already have a contract in place. The expectation is that for those who are not currently using Chattis, you will need to have a contract. I can tell you that Chattis has agreed that for new folks coming on board with Chattis with this feature, there will be a 90-day waiver of the contract fees. Again, we negotiated that because of what's going on with COVID. So similar to broadcast messaging, PCC is covering the cost. We asked them to help with that. The expectation is that the charges will flow through. PCC is not going to be billing for Chattis. PCC is not going to uplift Chattis fees. The Chattis fees will be the contract that you have with Chattis.
Okay. Yeah, so that answers that is a response to the feedback as well. What was shared, Dr. Warner had asked, as a longtime Chattis user, I prefer the current pricing structure. If there was a small discount, that would be great, but I fear that the longtime users would end up spending more with the new structure. So it sounds like we've addressed that already.
Yeah, and definitely, give us your feedback. We've got Chip has been talking with our Chattis team regularly, and we've got one of our delivery teams, Amanda's the BA. They are talking with the Chattis crew pretty much daily now as we're getting this pilot ready. And Chip has been the one that's kind of focused on the contract side of things. But that is the plan. PCC will. I don't even know that PCC is going to do the billing for this. The last I heard, it would actually be Chattis doing the billing. But if anything, it's a pass through. There will be no uplift at all.
Awesome. Yeah, so the 2 bits of query and feedback were exactly those. We did have some great suggestions and jokes from Dr. Kaplan, so hello to him.
Hello, Dr. Kaplan. We're so glad to have you, and thank you for helping with our beta. The beta crew, you guys are just amazing. You're all wonderful. You're all wonderful, but I'm just telling you, our beta crew, the things they sometimes put up with are interesting, and you guys are just, I just want to give you a shout out. So we appreciate you so much.
Well, that seems a lovely note to end on.
Okay.
Owen has added the form link directly to the live session, so we're ready for folks to answer your call for preferences and feedback there. Find all these recordings and handouts and resources right at pcc.com/UC. And I think we can go that far. I think I heard somewhere there's a shortcut, pcc.com/UC will get you there as well. I've been adding all those extraneous -2020s. But that's what we've got for you today. Thank you again, Paula, and thank you all for attending and for making this event great. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye all.